Yo, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be ranking all fighters from a K-drama show called the UNCANNY Counter. I'm going to be ranking season 2 of the show first, which is a bit weird I know, but that's just because season 1 is significantly longer and has much more complicated scaling, and I'm quite busy at the moment so I don't have the time to look into it too much just yet. So I decided to do season 2 first, so I hope you guys enjoy. In the no scaling tier we have Somun while holding back, episode 7 and 6 Majusok, all the versions of Mrs. Chu, Chairman Choi, Jokbong, and some random garbage evil spirits. Mrs. Chu, Chairman Choi, and Na Jokbong have very vague scaling and are implied multiple times to be the worst of their team, so it's hard to say where these guys scale to, so for that reason I'm gonna unfortunately put them in the no scaling tier. But to be honest though, we gotta give props to Jokbong for being able to pin Maju Sok to the ground in the hotel fight in episode 8. And as for the evil spirits in this tier, such as the repairman, the surgeon, and Kim Song-shik, these guys just straight up suck as they got completely destroyed by the likes of Hana, Somun, and even Jokbong, so them being here should be pretty self-explanatory. Majusok in episode 7 is a little hard to scale, since although he was able to press Moon, it's revealed later that Moon was holding back, so we can't say for sure how good he is.
우리 다른 악귀들과 다르다고 해도 네가 마주석보다 약했을 리 없고 마주석이라 약해졌던 거 아니냐? 다신 주저하지 마. 마주석은 이제 악귀고 그래서 우린 반드시.
But we do know that Maju Sok in episode 6 was able to choke Gelly Choi and overpower her with ease, meaning he was capable of negging fighters like Hana at this point since Hana and Gelly are relative. But once again, it's hard to say where he scales since he only scales to a suppressed version of Somun. In this tier I decided to call it I don't know tier, and the reason I didn't put these guys in the no scaling tier is because I do believe I was able to think of some scaling between the people in this tier, but I just simply don't know how high up this tier as a whole should be. This tier consists of the Chinese counters and Mr. Huang and his gang in episode 1. Mrs. So was implied to be the weakest in this team, so for that reason she would be at the bottom of this tier.
不过地势区域松动，请小心点啊。
And Wang would be next since he was able to defeat her when they fought. And the reason he's not any higher though is because he was still getting pressed by Mrs. So, who I just explained was implied to be the weakest in the team. This other Chinese counter and Gelly Choi in episode 1 would be above these two due to the fact that Mrs. So was implied to be the weakest in the team, meaning this Chinese counter would scale above. This would also mean he would scale above Wang, as Wang and Mrs. So were shown to be relative to each other, and Gelly Choi would upscale due to defeating this Chinese counter. And above Gelly Choi we have this other unnamed Chinese counter, the one who fought Pilguang. The reason he is above Gelly Choi is because although he did kinda get cooked by Huang, he was able to somewhat press Huang, whereas every single encounter we see between Mr. Huang and Gelly Choi, Huang was able to just completely delete her with no difficulty at all, and there's nothing to necessarily prove their encounter would have gone any different had they faced off in episode 1. But above him would have been this Chinese counter, the blonde guy. Him scaling above the previous Chinese counter that I just mentioned should be pretty obvious, as he did significantly better against Mr. Huang than the other counter, but Huang would be the king of this tier due to defeating this Chinese counter, who scales above everyone else in this tier. Although we have some chain scaling here, it's just kind of hard to say where these guys rank since they scale to each other but not to anyone else in the verse. These guys could potentially be very high up, but it's unquantifiable where they scale to. In D tier we have Doana in episodes 1. Hana was able to fight on par with the bus driver, but the bus driver was able to get the upper hand against her at the end as he had her down and was strangling her. But when they entered the territory, Hana was able to get the upper hand, so for that reason, Hana with the territory scales above the bus driver, but the bus driver scales above her when she doesn't have the territory. At the bottom of C tier we have Doana in episode 2. She was able to somewhat press Wong, but ultimately lost in the end. And above her would be Motak in episode 2, since he was shown to perform better against Wong than Hana did, due to the fact that in both times when they fought, it took Wong a lot more ease to incapacitate Hana, and although Hana was able to land more hits on Wong than Motak did, Hana's hits were shown to do pretty much no damage to Wong, whereas Motak was able to temporarily incapacitate Wong and tank many more hits, so for that reason he would be above. But Wong in episode 2, however, would be above Hana and Motak as he safely beat them both up. Wong in episode 4 is just basically the same as his episode 2 self. He didn't really do too much, he was just bullying Mr. Choi and Mrs. Chu in the museum, which was pretty painful to watch. But Motak in episode 4 should scale above him, since although him and Mrs. Chu were tag teaming Wong, when Wong and Motak fought alone, Motak was able to overpower him and land a hit on him even before Mrs. Chu jumped in to help. And all we see Wong do in their 1v1 is get Motak in a chokehold, which Motak got out at like pretty much instantly anyway. So for that reason you could make an argument that by season 4 Motak surpassed Wong, which is consistent with the fact that he was shown to be training after his first loss to Wong. Gelly Choi in episode 4 however would be above these two, due to the fact that Motak in episode 3 stated Hana was their only hope against Somun, which implies that she is above him, and this is consistent with the fact that she performed the best against Somun in sparring. And seeing as Gelly Choi was able to fight on par with Hana, who Motak admitted was superior to him, she would scale above both Wong and Motak. Hana would be the queen of this tier list since in her fight with Gelly, she was able to land 2 hits in comparison to Gelly's 1 hit, therefore she scales above her. And at the bottom of this tier we have some versions of Gelly Choi and Hana. I don't really want to get too involved in this because it's quite self-explanatory, but all I'm going to say is literally every time Hana and Gelly fight, Hana is better, and it's that simple. It's kind of like Tori versus Sam in Cobra Kai. Sam is just better every time they fight. Of course with Hana being Sam and Gelly being Tori. Yo wait, that's actually kind of crazy though, because Gelly fights with a spike bracelet just like Tori does. That's actually insane. And she's a fucking crazy psycho bitch just like Tori. But yeah, anyway, long story short, Hana just beats Gelly every time they fight. However, Motak in episode 8 would be above Hana in episode 8, as he did the best against all the counters besides Somun in the hotel fight, as he was able to land a flying Superman punch on Hwang Pil-kwang, tackle him against the wall and take him down to the floor. He was also able to land a Superman punch on Ma Ju-sok. Whereas we see when Hana, for example, fought Ma Ju-sok by herself, she just got completely negged. So for that reason, episode 8 Motak in the hotel fight would scale above Hana in the hotel fight. And also Hana in episode 9, as Hana didn't train in between the hotel fight and episode 9. Hana in the finale, however, would be above episode 8 Motak, due to the fact that she performed relatively to Motak in the finale, and Motak in the finale should be above his episode 8 self. Motak and Hana were both able to land 2 hits on Ma Ju-sok in the finale, so they are relative. However, I will put Motak above, as his hits seemed to damage Ma Ju-sok more, as it resulted in Ma Ju-sok's head spinning backwards, whereas Hana didn't seem to damage him as much. Either way, they are relative and a case could be made for either one being above, but I personally have Motak above because of what I just said. And in the A tier we have Hwang Pil-kwang in episode 4 at the bottom. Mr. Hwang was able to fight on par with Somun, but Somun was eventually able to get the upper hand. The reason I have Somun, even in just episode 1, higher than everyone else I just listed, is because Moon is just straight up stated to be the best in the team by far.
마! 일말 자식이 이게 말귀를 못 알아먹나 이게. 니 진짜 모르겠나? 네가 없으면 우리 다 없는 거야. 어? 네가 누구? 우리의 중심 아이가. 내는 죽어도 돼. 하지만 또 니는 우리를 다 포기해도 살아가. 끝까지 아끼놈의 새끼들 잡는 게 네 임무야. 니 그걸 몰라서 이거나.
And it's just implied that nobody's getting better than him anytime soon. So there's a lack of any solid evidence that anyone previously had surpassed him. When Mr. Hwang got his resolve up though, he was able to get the upper hand against base Somun. But when Somun found his resolve, he was able to turn the tides in his favor and regain the upper hand against Mr. Hwang. And in S tier, we have Somun in the hotel fight at the bottom. Somun was able to fight on par with Ma Ju-sok in the hotel fight. However, Ma Ju-sok was able to outperform him as Ma Ju-sok landed 7 attacks on Somun, whereas Moon landed only 5. And Ma Ju-sok technically won the fight as he had Moon on the ground and was still standing. Episode 10 Ma Ju-sok is basically just the same as his episode 8 self, since he doesn't devour any souls in between episodes 8 and 10. But Hwang Pil-kwang in episode 8 would be above these two versions of Majusok due to the fact that he performed slightly better against Motak than Majusok did. Both Majusok and Pilguang fought Motak in episode 8, and in their fight, Motak was able to land 3 hits on Majusok, whereas he was only able to land 1 on Pilguang and tackle him to the ground. Due to the fact that Pilguang struggled slightly less against Motak than Majusok did, Pilguang in episode 8 would scale above and is therefore the king of this tier. In SS tier, we have base Somun in episode 10. Somun was seemingly winning the fight against Majusok before he activated the territory, so for that reason he would scale above episode 10 Majusok and episode 8 Majusok, since I explained earlier that those two are basically the same fighters. The reason this version of Somun is above episode 8 Mr. Huang is because after the hotel fight, Mr. Huang gets stronger by devouring Geli Choi's soul, and Moon was able to perform relatively to that version of Mr. Huang against base Majusok, meaning he should scale above episode 8 Mr. Huang, seeing as he scales to a stronger version of Huang. Mr. Huang in episode 10 is here, since when he fought Majusok, he also destroyed him with ease just like Somun did. However, since Moon in episode 10 was able to defeat Majusok with a similar amount of ease as Mr. Huang even before he activated the territory, it stands to reason that Moon with the territory would scale above Mr. Huang, since he already performed relatively to Mr. Huang against Majusok without it. So for that reason, Somun with the territory in episode 10 would be above Mr. Huang, but however, the king of this tier would be Majusok with the territory. His base self was about to lose to Mr. Huang, but when the territory was activated, he destroyed him with ease.
땅의 힘을 받는다. 놈들처럼 봐주소. 대체 어떤 놈이야?
분명한 건 너 같은 놈이랑은 다르다는 거지.
And he did the exact same to Somun when Somun activated the territory, so for that reason he scales above everyone else in this tier. And in SSS tier, we have Somun in the finale at the bottom. He should scale above the previous tier as he was able to press Majusok in the finale, and we know this is a Majusok who devoured Mr. Huang's soul, meaning he would be stronger. However, Majusok in the finale was shown to be clearly above Somun, as he was fighting off Somun and the other counters at the same time, and Majusok with the territory in the finale would just upscale this. Thank you guys for watching, I hope you enjoyed. The season 1 ranking will come out soon when I have some free time.